had a guy who was in federal prison, and he was a IT specialist. He had great IT skills, and he was very good at what he did. And he could not get by the first interview because of his record. And I must have made 50 calls to different corporate human resource personnel people, presidents of companies. Just do me a favor, give this guy a chance, give this guy a chance. So I sent him over to Rise, and he took his resume with him, and they called him and they wanted him to go to Lincoln Financial Field and clean up after an Eagles game. Now, I think that if that's what you can do, that's what you can do to make ends meet, but when you have a person who has skills and don't need to be trained, and you send them to clean up the stadium, you're not really looking further than the stadium. So I think that we need to look for job opportunities, and it's got to be the mayor's responsibility to make the contacts with the Chamber of Commerce folks and with the people who own companies and run companies, in order to say that do the same thing that I did with my guy when he was a teenager and then when he was a young adult. Take a chance on this person. I know them, and I know if you give them a chance, they will get better and they will succeed. But it's got to be a personal effort on the part of the mayor with the business community to say, you have to help us with this because it's in all our best interest. Now, there are some industries where we're not going to be able to get help. There are certain federal requirements, banking requirements, child care, things of that nature that we may just preclude us from having any success. But we can have success in jobs where people don't need a college education, or we can have success in getting people into community college programs that will provide them certifications and things that they need to be more job marketable. But sending a guy with IT skills to the link for cleanup, to me, is just not helping anybody. And if they did that with him, I don't know what they're doing with everybody else. But I do not have statistics right now in front of me to tell you what the answer to that is. On the education piece first, I mean, I think that we can, both with, again, utilizing community college the best we can, by talking to industries in the city and saying, what are your hiring needs? Who are you going to be hiring? What type of people are you going? What kind of skills do you need in the next decade of hiring? And then try to get community college to tailor their curriculum, their course offerings to those types of jobs. Whether it's an associate degree or whether it is a certification, some type of welder or things of that nature you need certification for. The Commerce Department, I mean, we've had a kind of a participation goal effort in the city that I think has simply been symbolic when it comes to having minority, female-owned, disabled firms, and the disabled firm of you have a form of a disability as a result of your record. So, by being real serious about participation, because right now I think they talk participation, but they're not serious about participation. The other thing small business people need is they need technical help and they need capital. And what I intend to do is take some of the deposits that we have in our city and the larger banks in the city and redistribute, not all of it, but some of it, to the smaller community banks that loan people who want to buy a house or start a business. And then have a program, not Rise, but a program dealing with this issue where we can also talk to lending institutions, both big and small, to see what type of business plan and help that person put that business plan together to access the capital like every other business does, and to take it and have those companies take a chance on them also. There's no holistic approach to it. When you have problems that are presented to you when it comes to access or obstructions that are in people's way, then you go attack those obstructions and access. Because sometimes you never know even what you're facing until you run into the wall. But I think local institutions lending, technical assistance from the City Commerce Department and PIDC and the Chamber of Commerce when it comes to putting a business plan together for a person to start a company or consulting company or some other company, and then tailoring community colleges' offerings to those areas where people are more likely to get a job when they finish their program.
Now, here's the question. First caveat. I'm on State Road. I don't have a GED. I can barely spell GED.
Right.
So community college is the farthest thing from my mind.
The other part of this process is to knowing a year in advance who's coming out, potentially, and having a profile of those folks before they come out to know what it is, skills they have or don't have, what issues they're facing, and what they really want to do and what experience they've had in life. So we will have kind of a life resume of that person, good and bad, to determine what it is we can do to address both sides of it. And that would be, if GED is what it is, then we have to figure out a way with our educational institutions in the city, the large ones, and with our, I think building trades is a great opportunity to get people the math skills they need to pass an entry test for an apprentice program. And I'm going to talk to them about, and I have been talking to them about putting something together that's meaningful, so that folks can be referred there and be supported there and get the skills that they need to move on. Like, it's a long, like, I'm not going to stand here and tell you in 4 years we're going to have this problem solved, but in 4 years you're going to see a much better situation than we see today. That's the only commitment I can make. Will we make mistakes? Yeah, but I am not I am humble enough to admit when we make mistakes and correct them, as opposed to just going in a bad direction because it's the direction I want to go in. I'm a smart person, but I'm not the smartest person in the room. And once you become the smartest person in the room, you're not too smart.
If we the reason, ex-offenders are the reason that you can justify millions of dollars going into RISE, then why don't we receive any type of funding when we come home?
If I make a commitment to do something and I think something's important, I'm going to be involved in it directly. I'm going to be involved in who gets hired there, what they do there, and what the outcomes are, not just checking off boxes that somebody got sent to the link to clean up after an Eagles game. It is important. This is important to me. It's important to me that I'm successful at doing it, because if I'm successful at doing it in the 4 or 8 years that I'm mayor, if God willing I get there, then I'm going to really change the face of the city. I'm going to change the climate in the city. I'm going to change people's lives. I started out with that story about my friend, my young friends, because that made a difference in me. It made a difference in how I view myself as a person who can help others, who can make make other people's lives differently. I would not stand here before you today and tell you about this story or about my ideas unless I meant to follow through with them. I have more respect for myself than that, not just to come up here and give you platitudes and then get there and not do anything. I mean, obviously I'll be judged on my performance if, again, I get there, but I intend to make this a critical part of this administration because it needs to be. And for too long it hasn't. And the difference that you can make in folks' lives, even if you touch one life, as I told you the story, and I've touched others, but that one life will touch and change so many others. And I'm a sincere believer in that. And I would not be telling you that this is going to be a major part of my efforts unless I really meant to do it and do it for real.